My name is Frank Zielinski. I was born in Staten Island, New York. I was a farmer before I went into the service. And then when I came out of the service, I worked for Mobile Oil as a maintenance man. I just came out of high school. I was just quitting high school at the time because my father needed help on the farm. And when I got out of school, the Army said, well, there's not going to be any work when you come out, so you may as well join the Army. So I said, no, well, I'm only 17, so I don't need to join the Army now. But they said, well, we'll draft you anyway if you're 17, so I went in at 17. Well, we went to Hokkaido, Japan. We stayed there for 6 weeks ski training.
Oh.
So then I said, uh-oh, Korea is next. Didn't expect it, but that's what happened. We wound up in Korea in 1950.
What was your basic unit and specialty?
45th Division, Oklahoma National Guards.
Mm-hmm. And what was your specialty?
I was an air-cooled 30 machine gunner.
Machine gunner?
Yeah.
Ah. Could you tell me about your training of this machine gun?
Yeah, it's
did you receive
30.
that in Hokkaido or?
Well, I carried it in Hokkaido. I had the 45 and I had also the machine gun, the air-cooled 30. So I would be a 30 caliber assistant machine gunner. So when we landed in Incheon with MacArthur is when we lost the machine gunner. So automatically I took over the gun.
Anything before and after picture of the Incheon landing?
No, when I got into Incheon, we went over the side of the boat, over the rope ladders. I lost one friend. He fell off between the rope and the ship, and he drowned with his pack. So that's where we lost a buddy there. And then from there, when we landed in Incheon, we had this here tent city. And the first night we were there, the North Koreans invaded and killed one of the fellas sleeping in his sleep. And then we were alert from that time on. And then from there, we hit in Incheon. Incheon was leveled off. There was nothing. There was nothing but rubble. So that's how we kept going until we got further out. Then we came into the Chosen Frozen with the Marines. I was in the infantry and the Marines were surrounded. And then we got surrounded when the lake froze. We were surrounded.
Uh-huh.
We were surrounded by the Chinese. They came over the frozen lake. When the lake froze overnight, not right offhand, when we went a little further from Incheon, that's when we ran into the trouble. That's when we started hitting it. What happened, we ran out of ammunition. We were on the end of the supply line. We had no winter clothing. The weather hit us about 40 below zero. We had the Staten Island Advance. We wrapped it around our legs.
Did you have a Mickey Mouse booth at the time?
No.
No.
Mickey Mouse didn't come out until July.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they gave them to us in July. That's when we wound up with trench foot. Because the more you sweat, the hotter your feet got. We used the North Korean shoes. And we used the North Korean uniforms under our uniform. The jackets came up to here on us. So we had to cut the shoes. Our toes stuck up about that far out of the shoes because we were on the end of the supply line. They came so fast that you didn't even realize it because there was so much power, firepower, that you were aiming for them and they were falling all around you.
How close?
Well, we came pretty close where you almost had to use the hand-to-hand.
And you survived it without any...
No wounds.
No wounds?
No wounds.
You are a lucky man.
Oh, I had buddies behind me.
How many...
Well, you figure you had 2 riflemen behind me. They brought the ammunition when we ran out of it. So they watched my back and I watched theirs. Scared, yes.
How many days you were there at around the lake of Jangjin?
About 3 days until we had reinforcements. Then our reinforcements came.
And then what happened? Did
Then
you
we were
withdraw?
pulled out.
Pulled out.
We helped the Marines to help the Marines at that time.
But,
When,
but when you finally withdraw from that region and you
and
went
everybody was pulled back and the replacements took over.
right.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because that was a fresh troop.
So when did you leave Korea?
When I left Korea was 1953.
Well, you were there for 3 years?
Yeah, from 50 to 53. I came out in September 1953.
So you were there when the armistice was signed.
Yes,
Where were you?
I was on Old Baldy.
Where is that?
Well, I don't remember the hill and the number, but that was right
Southwest?
where the north was. You can see them walking. They would just walk around the top of the mountain just to see if you'd shoot at them. But that was a peace treaty then.
So that was the west side of it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
See, they were dropping these 500-pound bombs, and we thought they were duds. But they didn't go off until midnight. Then all hell broke out.
What was the most dangerous moment that you remember during your service?
In the trench, when I was on the line, when we got hit at midnight. They hit us at midnight, and that's when the machine gun and all started firing. And you had to make sure the other guy would stay awake. Sometimes you'd hear them snore, and on guard they'd be snoring. You'd throw rocks on them to wake them up so they wouldn't sneak up behind you.
What was like living in that time?
It was hell. You had water in the trench. There was no way you can keep warm until we had the bunkers. Then finally we built our bunkers and we were able to keep ourselves warm.
So there was no stove or anything like that?
No, we made our
heating?
own stoves.
Your own stove? How?
We made it out of the ammunition cans and tomato juice cans. We made the chimney. And then they delivered a 5-gallon can of gas, and we made a rubber hose from the gas can, put a clamp on it, put a little piece of tubing in so it would vaporize the gas, and that's how it would heat the...
Genius.
Yes, we had, well, you had to figure one way to stay hot.
How about food?
Food was sea rations,
Rations.
pork and beans.
So there was no hot food
No.
at all?
Only on Thanksgiving is when the KSCs brought it out to us.
What was the best part of the sea rations for you?
Well, the sea rations with the cigarettes and the cookies and the instant coffee. In fact, we left a lot of it for the kids. There was a lot of children there that were left alone. And we would take for what we need for the day, and we'd leave the rest for the kids. So they'd have something to eat.
There were Korean village around your base?
Yes, there was villages around.
Ah, tell me about it, please.
They
How
were
many
like-
Koreans and what was...
Well, the
living
only thing I
conditions?
can remember is it was a grass house with a concrete floor, and we used to make the fire underneath to keep warm. That was the only thing I remember about it. I was more worried about keeping my skin.
Does your unit have houseboy, Korean boy, the busboy?
Some did. The officers, sergeants, lieutenants.
Not you?
No.
Have you had any experience with working with the Korean Katusa?
Just the KSCs, when they brought the food up to us.
Mm-hmm.
We wondered how they did it. They used to carry that stuff heavier than them, and they'd bring it to us.
What was the most rewarding moments during your service?
Most rewarding is when they came out with the turkey.
When was it?
That was around Thanksgiving.
You were really missing Thanksgiving home.
Well,
right?
you thought of chicken and stuff, things that you didn't have.
So that was the happiest moment.
That was the happiest moment. That's when you forget about everything. No matter how dirty the food was, you still ate it. It was good.
What is the overall impact of the Korean War in your life?
In my life, it taught me a lot. To respect others, protect others. And that's what I try to do today.
Today. So after you coming back from Korea, what did you do?
I had to learn everything over again. It was hard to get used to, having somebody tell you brush your teeth, comb your hair, get a haircut, shave. You had to do everything for yourself.
But that's what you used to do
Natural,
during
yeah.
the war, right?
Yeah, we
Oh.
were told to do it. though.
Yeah, but what I meant is that what kind of job did you have? Did you just continue to work as a farmer?
No, when I came back, I put in for a maintenance man job. And I worked for Mobile Oil as a maintenance man. I used to do the 5 boroughs and part of East Brunswick, New Jersey.
So,
I used to repair the gas stations.
so while you carrying out your jobs, were there anything that you think you got from the Korean War service?
Yeah, it taught me how to protect myself,
Mm-hmm.
discipline myself. Yes,
Mm-hmm. Have you been back to Korea?
yes.
When?
I was back there about 3 months ago.
3 months ago.
Yeah,
That was the first time?
that was my first time since.
Tell me about it. How did you feel?
Well, when I went to Incheon, I was looking to see where we landed. I couldn't find it because it was bigger than New York City. Everything was changed, different. I thought I was back in New York. People were different. The food.
What other place did you go?
Well, we went to the museum, and somehow I got the bug that night, and it made me very sick. I was rinsing my mouth, I guess, after I washed the teeth, and I got very sick from it. My wife was also sick. My son's a doctor, he came with us, and he enjoyed himself. He's teaching the Korean students today.
So, your son is in Korea?
No, he's here in the United States, but
Right.
he teaches the Korean students in Jersey as a doctor. His students are Korean students.
So when you go back to Korea and find that it's so different, how did you feel about your service and your?
I couldn't believe that after all we went through, to see the country change as much as it did there. Even when I went to the DMZ, I couldn't believe it. It was a big change.
So how did you feel about your service?
I felt that I did my job.
Overall, how do you describe the legacy of the Korean War and Korean War veterans?
Korean vets, we stick together. We watch one another, even today.
Even today,
Yeah.
yeah. And why that some people call it as a Korean conflict, or some people say it's a
The
police
forgotten
action,
war.
or the forgotten war. Why? And how can we overcome that?
That, they wouldn't even put it in the history books. Half of the kids in this country don't even know there was a Korean War, unless when we go to the schools and we talk to the children about it. We take the helmets, we take the canteens, we show the children.
You're talking about Tell America program?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm. How many grandchildren do you have?
I have 5.
5? How old they are?
I have a 23, he's a policeman. I have a 25-year-old, he's going to be a policeman. I have a granddaughter that's a school teacher. And I have 2, one 7 and one 5.
What do you mean, 7-year-old?
7-year-old, 5-year-old.
Great-grandchildren, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, grandchild.
Oh, grandchild.
And he loves the American flag, because I had brainwashed him.
Have you talked to them about your service?
Yes, we do. The children know.
Mm.
They go to the parades, they watch, they see Grandpa out there. When I go back to Korea, I see a lot of these young fellas. I mean, they were children when I was there. And I see they come over and they thank me for what I've done when I was over there. And it makes me feel proud. Because it could have been one of those children that I played the father of the day with. When we were in R&R, rest and recuperation they called it, we had like 10 boys, and we would make sure that they would eat for that day. And we would act as their father. Most of the Korean vets did that.
Official proclamation of Ambassador for Peace for
Uh-huh.
Mr. Frank Zielinski. Here it is.
I thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you. And I also have a medal for you.
Thank you very much. It's my honor. It's my honor, sir.
Thank you, sir.